As tech companies crack down on conspiracy theorists, right-wing extremists, entire social media platforms, Ron Paul, and even the sitting president of the United States, we need to have a serious discussion about censorship. That is, assuming this video doesn't get taken down as soon as it's posted. Censorship has always been a dirty word in America, but over the past few years it's become increasingly acceptable for tech companies to censor or deplatform prominent people or organizations who hold controversial or unpopular opinions. It all started with Milo Yiannopoulos and Alex Jones, and we all shrugged our shoulders and said, tech companies are private, they can do what they want, right? But of course, it's always a slippery slope. The motivation behind censorship is fear. Fear that unrestricted speech might cause injury, propagate hate speech, or even question the mainstream. The idea that we should be protected from speech that might harm us goes all the way back to Plato, probably much earlier. The principle of free speech is, by historical standards, new, but far from being a fad. Freedom of speech is a key component of reason and enlightenment, as well as being a founding principle of the United States. But wait, doesn't the Constitution only stop the government from censoring speech? Private companies can do what they like on their own platforms. You can't force Twitter to host people or ideas it disagrees with, right? That's true. And as our history shows, more government regulation is certainly not the solution, because all regulation does is allow whatever political party is in power to dictate and control your speech. But we also have to face the reality of big tech's historical and ongoing collusion with big government. Big tech long ago partnered with the Obama, Biden, Clinton State Department to lend tools of soft power for regime change in Iran and coup attempts in the Middle East and Ukraine. We see how it is that political power tilts the playing field right now, as media platforms seem to unilaterally target Republican-leaning voices, just as Democrats take full control of the regulatory powers of the legislative and executive branches. Politics corrupts, and politics in cahoots with big business corrupts absolutely. And besides, just because something is legal doesn't mean it's good or healthy. Google may have the right to restrict our search results, but when it does so on ideological or discriminatory grounds, that's something that we should all be concerned about. We'd certainly be upset if tech companies started blocking access to content or deplatforming users based on race, gender, and sexual orientation. Well, ideological diversity is just as important. Free speech is not just about what laws the government can or can't pass. It's a bedrock principle absolutely necessary to a free society. As every therapist will tell you, a marriage can't work without honest communication. Well, the same is true for a country. If we're not able to talk to each other, we can give up any hope of sorting out our differences and increasing tolerance and understanding. Whether censorship is coming from the government or private sector is less important than our attitude toward free speech in general, our willingness to listen to those with whom we disagree. The argument against this is that some ideas are bad, dangerous, or just shouldn't be allowed. Ideas can lead to violence, and trying to stop violence is certainly a noble goal that we can all get behind. But this is where things get tricky. Ideas can be dangerous in the same way that anything useful and important can be dangerous. But the only way to tell whether an idea is good or bad is to listen to it, debate it, and attempt to refute it. But bad ideas need to be challenged. Otherwise, we risk just pushing them underground where they can fester into something much more dangerous than an open dialogue. Right now, most of big tech companies are run by people who lean left, and so most of internet censorship we're seeing is directed against the right wing. But the threat of censorship shouldn't be a partisan issue. The narrowing of acceptable opinion is not a conspiracy against conservatives. It is in fact a much wider assault on any opinion that challenges the mainstream elite, which is made up of both Democrats and conservatives. The same elite that have supported endless wars, coups, and drone attacks in the Middle East.
The media can be used in a sense as one of their weapons.
The power structures that support pumping billions of dollars into the military-industrial complex and funding a never-ending slush pile of programs throughout the world every year while cutting measly $600 checks for the average working American. This elite power structure is incentivized to keep us fighting each other. Censorship is something that affects all of us, no matter which end of the spectrum you find yourself on. A look back at history shows us this. The Sedition Act of 1918 limited rights to free speech during war, making it a crime to willfully utter, print, write, or publish any disloyal, profane, scurrilous, or abusive language about the form of the government of the United States. President Woodrow Wilson supported it to tamp down opposition to World War I in the draft. The act targeted resistors, pacifists, socialists, and anarchists, and more than 1,000 cases filed by the government resulted in convictions before it was finally repealed in 1920. Eugene V. Debs was an American labor and political leader and 5-time Socialist Party of America candidate for presidency. On June 16, 1918, Debs made an anti-war speech in Canton, Ohio, protesting U.S. involvement in World War I. He was arrested under the Espionage Act of 1917 and convicted, sentenced, and served 10 years in prison and disenfranchised for the rest of his life. During World War II, as part of the 1941 War Powers Act, President Franklin Roosevelt created the Office of Censorship, which issued guidelines for the media to determine for itself if the information being published could be valuable to the enemy. Under voluntary censorship, newspapers did not publish photographs of dead U.S. troops, but kept secret information about plans to drop the atom bomb, and did not write about the president's ill health. U.S. citizens' mail was read and censored as well. In the 1950s, Senator Joseph McCarthy infamously made his personal mission to seek out and destroy any traces of communist thought from the entertainment industry. Actors and directors would put on trial for things they were alleged to have said or even thought. Leftists in Hollywood are forced to keep their political views tightly under wraps lest they be blackballed, driven out of the industry, or even arrested. Given communism's bloody history, one could make the argument defending McCarthy that we are seeing now in defense of Google and Amazon. Dangerous ideas must be suppressed or people will get hurt. But history has rightly condemned McCarthy's methods as misguided and un-American. If we tolerate censorship of the right now, there's nothing to stop the same tactics from being applied to those on the left as soon as someone like McCarthy or even Donald Trump manages to get into power. Once it's okay to suppress any speech, you better believe that sooner or later they're going to suppress your speech. Besides these principled objections, censorship as a tactic isn't very effective. Today, the Streisand effect refers to attempts to suppress information that actually have the opposite effect. When someone is deplatformed or censored online, people are going to want to know why. If an idea is worth suppressing, it must be important. All the censors are doing is lending legitimacy to their targets. The solution to bad speech isn't less speech, it's more. We need to confront bad ideas with better ones and show people who hold them that they are making a mistake. Censoring these people will only make them feel justified and drive them to even darker places of extremism, groupthink, and hate. Instead, bring them out into the light. Sunlight is a disinfectant after all, and it's only when we begin to talk to each other that we can truly heal.